Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Robert Allen, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Lieutenant Colonel Marshall Lawrence. We warmly welcome the family of Private Alec Mann and Sergeant William Mann, whose stories will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. If able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just two of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Sergeant William Mann and Private Alec Mann. Alec Mann was born on the 9th of September 1892, the third child born to William and Fanny Mann in Adelaide, South Australia. 2 years later, on the 22nd of September 1894, William Mann was born. He was the fourth child born to the couple. In 1899, the boy's father, William, moved from Adelaide to far north Queensland for mining work. A year later, their mother travelled with her 6 young children on the long ocean voyage from Adelaide to Cairns to reunite the family. From Cairns, Fanny and her children made the 220-kilometre overland journey to Mungana, and it was here that William and Alec grew up. Alec left school to begin work when he was around 14 years old. Despite living in a mining town, his parents decided that he was too small to work as a miner, so he began working with a local barber, lathering the faces of customers waiting to have a shave. In 1910, after having lived with his family in the small mining community of O'Kay to the west of Port Douglas, Alec Mann moved back to Mungana and opened his own barber shop at the nearby Wolfram mining camp. William left school when he was 12 or 13, travelling northeast on horseback with his older brother Clifton to Port Douglas and Mossman, where they worked as cane cutters. In 1912, William Mann Sr. was granted land to start a sugarcane farm at Home Hill on the Burdekin River south of Townsville. Young William travelled south by horseback to work as a cane cutter with his family. William remained living and working in Home Hill until the 3rd of June 1915, when he enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force. Alec enlisted shortly afterwards on the 19th of July 1915. Soon after his enlistment, on the 20th of September 1915, he married Lillian Rahal in Townsville. After a brief period of training, William Mann sailed from Sydney with reinforcements for the 9th Infantry Battalion in August 1915. Alec sailed from Melbourne in early November with reinforcements for the 31st Infantry Battalion. Arriving too late to take part in the Gallipoli campaign, the brothers were in Egypt during the period of reorganisation known as the doubling of the AIF, in which veterans from Gallipoli were mixed with new recruits arriving from Australia. William was promoted to the rank of sergeant and transferred to the 49th Infantry Battalion, which formed part of the 13th Brigade of the 4th Australian Division. He sailed from Alexandria on the 5th of June 1916 and arrived in France a week later. Throughout August, William and the 49th Battalion occupied the trenches near Pozières, north of the Somme River, and worked at rebuilding and reinforcing the trench system damaged in the bloody battle there weeks earlier. On the 2nd of September, they moved into frontline trenches in preparation for an attack at Mouquet Farm to the north, which had been the site of heavy fighting for the Australians for nearly a month. The attack by the 49th Battalion formed part of the last attempt to capture the objective, which had been taken and lost numerous times since early August, at the cost of 11,000 Australian casualties. William Mann's company had been tasked with forming a protection screen for other companies after they had taken some of their key objectives. In the early hours of the 3rd of September 1916, Mann and the soldiers of the 49th Battalion climbed out of their trenches after a heavy artillery barrage on the German lines. The field diary of Mann's unit wrote that the artillery fire was so thick that one could plainly see almost a wall of lead falling on the German trenches. William Mann was last seen running across no man's land through heavy German machine gun and artillery fire. As he ran, he was struck in the chest and severely wounded by a piece of shrapnel. His comrades laid him in the relative shelter of a shell hole, but in the chaos of the battle, had to press forward and leave him where he lay. Mann was never seen again and likely died as a result of his wounds as the battle raged around him. He was 21 years old. Alec had sailed to France after a brief period in hospital with the mumps, arriving on the 23rd of June 1916. In July, he took part of the bloody Battle of Fromelles, Australia's first major battle on the Western Front. Fought near the village in northern France to the south of Armentières, this battle took a heavy toll on the 31st Battalion, which suffered nearly 600 casualties in a single day, over half its strength. Days afterward, Alec transferred to a new unit, the 8th Australian Light Mortar Battery, which provided light artillery support for troops in the field. Light mortar batteries would run to their designated firing site, lay mortar fire on German positions, and then quickly fall back before attracting retaliatory German artillery fire. Just under 6 weeks after his brother's death, on the 12th of October 1916, Alec Mann was serving in the lines of Houplin near Armentières, where he was killed in action, likely by German artillery fire brought down as retaliation for mortar fire from his battery. He was 24 years old. He was survived by his young wife Lillian, to whom he'd been married for a little over a year. Alec Mann was buried in the Cité Bonjon military cemetery at Armentières, where over 2,600 casualties of the First World War now lie. Meanwhile, William Mann had been reported as missing, and his family faced an agonising period of uncertainty as to his fate, even receiving erroneous reports that he had been seen alive in a hospital weeks after the battle. William Mann Sr. wrote to authorities in February 1917 for news of his son's whereabouts. "I think you should let me know where he is or what has become of him. If he is wounded, what hospital he is at. We are very anxious about him. You see, it is 4 months now since he was reported wounded, and I have got word from the front that he is missing." It was not until the 31st of July 1917, nearly a year after his death, that the family received official confirmation that William was presumed killed in action. His body was never found, and today his name is listed on the Australian National Memorial at Villers-Bretonneux in France. Their names are listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. Their photographs are displayed today beside the pool of reflection. These are but two of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Sergeant William Mann and Private Alec Mann, who gave their lives for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director and staff, we thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.